as Robert said, I think it mystified me back 9 years ago, why we were charging ourselves to run the facilities that we wanted to run. And I think what we're looking at and what Austri was proposing today is, a fair thing across the board. These are the facilities, these are the things that the voter, the resident demands. It's the cost of doing business and keeping the lights on. Although we like to promote the green building and all the rest, and I know, as you said, just turning the baseboard heaters off, and I reported that last month, saved a great deal of money. And there are other things. I know I've talked to Mark Shealy about. You've got a huge roof there. I mean, what a great solar field that would be on the library. So there are things we have to, it gives us an opportunity to even exercise to what could we be doing better rather than just saying, well, this is the cost it is, and this is the cost next year, and the cost, what can we do to close that gap in other ways? So we're trying to work with you here, and we're just stuck.
Well, I would say that would, Astrid, would be a significant help in terms of funding. However it was accomplished, whether you still bill or whether it's added or whether it's not charged. I know Robert has a lot of other, along with Ray, policy kinds of issues that you really have to deal with. Right. In terms of trying to investigate that. So if there is any possibility in that regard, the sooner that we would know, it would be very helpful as we try to take a look at what we're going to be doing come next week. Would be very helpful. Yeah. I think that's all we really have to say. I don't know in terms of, we could certainly spend more time.
And just before I go to Jeannie, one of the other things we're wrestling with in the future is hopefully we don't lose our $50 million rateable, which certainly affects the mill rate going forward in Wyeth. And we're doing everything we can to tell Pfizer, hey, come on down. We want you here. Besides all the other things that they offer to the community. So
the challenges that you're dealing with
keeping that in mind.
Have enormous financial implications.
All right.
Clearly understand that.
Ms. Tsukamoto.
Yeah. Looking at your numbers, approximately 86% of your revenue is from the borough, and approximately 14% is funds that you generate from the library. Question number one regarding that is that the norm compared to other libraries in the vicinity? And question number two is, out of that 14%, what is the percentage of revenue from fundraising?
Maybe that I think is a good question. The library for years has what they consider a variable budget, which is contributions, for instance, that come from the Friends and from other people that contribute for various reasons on an annual basis. For instance, in 2006, I have my own spreadsheets over here that I keep monitoring because I kind of track it by year, so I know. We had roughly...
Hold it for a second. Let me first, can you clarify something for me? You presented numbers from the endowment.
Yes.
So there's another pot of money from the Friends that we're
There are contributions that are made, and usually the Friends and the people designate. These are for programs. This is for collection, and largely that's what they're devoted for, as opposed to operations. The endowment has always been used to generally operate the library. So for instance, and I'll just tell you the number, in 2008, $76,000 was raised. The principal amount of that came from the Friends through the Drew mini courses. That is their principal fundraising, and it's been in place. Mr. Benedict gave a report to the library. I think it's generated over $300,000 in the years that it's been functioning for the operation of the library. We have an additional gifts and grants of roughly $25,000. Some people send a check, here's $1,000, here's $500, or this is for, the library. And so we use that, and generally it's used, and Nancy can speak to it better than I, it's categorized as to what the people have donated, and then the supervisors use it for the collection or their programming.
The Friends support all the children's programming, and the collection. They're the two prime focuses of the Friends of the Library. And they fundraise, their big fundraiser is the Drew Mini Courses. They have a benefit party coming up March 7th.
Which you all are invited to.
Over the year-
$45 a person.
Over the years, they've run bus trips and so forth, so they strongly support the collection and all the children's programming. So we
So
have.
the numbers that, that you were talking about, it's, they're part of the 14%?
No.
Of the library revenue?
So
They're not.
They would
put
be
the
over and above.
percentage. On an ongoing basis, rule of thumb, roughly 80% is borough-supported, 20% is from other reasons. 3% comes from the earned income of the library. You know, if you're looking at where the source of funding comes from fines, the operation of the Chase Room, roughly 14 to 15% comes from contributions, which includes the endowment. So it's an 80-20 is basically that we've been operating. And that looks like it's been almost in that ratio for a great number of years, give or take a fraction.
But we are unusual in the sense of having an endowment. I mean, there are other libraries with endowments, but we have been fortunate to have this endowment, you know, of this size. And our raised income, shall we say, is higher generally than I would say most libraries. I would have to look at it specifically, but off the top of my head, that would be my response.
Interesting on that point, because I looked at, I know the fundamental problem, which is based off of ratables. For instance, the ratables that support the Chatham Library, and Robert can look at his own schedule, is over $5+ billion, which is a library comparable in size to ours. The ratable that supports the Madison Library is 3.6. The ratables that support a much smaller library in Florham is like 3.2, 3.3, almost equal to the Madison ratables. So the only reason that I think that the Madison Library is what it is today has been due to, I think, the generous support that this body, as well as our contributors, have given. Otherwise, you would not have the institution that you have. It is.
I mean, we're celebrating our 40th anniversary of the building this year, and it was built in the 60s, and they took advantage. They were very fortunate to get government grants. Money was plentiful back in those years, and Mr. Chase gave the Chase Auditorium in memory of his wife. And there, you know, we can name names, Mr. Barton, Mr. James, et cetera, over the years have been very generous.
Forgot to say that. We do get still money from the Chase, not the Chase, but
James.
the James
Yeah.
estate.